Everyone. Go ahead and get started here. The title of today's session is Enhanced Customization and Improved Workflows. And my name is Nate Tarosky. I'm a Solutions Architect with Libris. I actually come from the Serial Solutions side of the house. If anyone remembers or has been a Serial Solutions customer, I joined that company in 2004. So I think a lot of background in electronic resource access management and discovery. And so I've been asked to do this session and talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing and sort of looking forward as well as some of the roadmap issues that we'll touch on. Here's a quick look at today's agenda. So we'll be kind of broadly addressing each of these bullet points, looking at our current approach with regard to discovery of your resources, looking at our discovery services, Summon and Primo. We'll look at the current state of the library in terms of discovery management. We'll talk a little bit about our strategy and how it involves different flavors. And so, why are we providing two discovery services? Why are we continuing to invest in both of these? And you can see here the unified approach. Really, in our view, delivers value. We'll talk a little bit about why we feel that strongly, and then looking at upcoming improvements, taking a little peek at the roadmap. Just a quick show of hands, who's currently using one of our discovery services? Great. And for the rest of the folks in the audience, are you using other discovery services or kind of just interested, generally speaking, in discovery? Any other discovery services in the audience? Okay, great, that helps me, thank you. So to start off with, I'd like to think of the library as really being at the heart of the academic institution. And one of our goals is to help libraries increase their impact. So what does that mean? We're looking at ways to help you extend your reach, increase efficiency across library operations, really increase the impact in terms of how you engage with the end user. And I think that's why discovery is so special. It plays a unique role as sort of the digital front door of the library, allows you to touch your virtual and remote users in a way and kind of provide them with guidance within the context of their research experience, whether they're a novice researcher or someone who is an expert in their field, a researcher specifically, or a faculty member, an instructor. All of these different groups and constituencies can see value from the discovery service if you have a service that's very flexible in adapting to their various needs, their research behaviors. So again, we want to find different ways to help you engage with these different groups, instructors, students, researchers. And really, as things rapidly change within the library industry, we have to keep pace with that. So one of the big challenges is our mission is never completed because your environment is always evolving. So your user behaviors are always shifting, and it's kind of like the shifting sands. How do we keep a pace with that? Especially when you have external systems like your Googles, Yahoo's, Bings, other web search environments, where users are engaged on a daily basis. And that's really shaping the way they view search and how they want to engage with library services. And so within the sort of family of Libris services, we've developed a unified platform approach we feel meets the needs of our customer community in a very strategic way. So you're able to have services that are tightly integrated and having a very extensible environment. So if you're the type of library that wants to develop your own services and really do a lot of integrations with third-party systems, maybe you're working with open source software like Blackboard, and you want to create your own discovery service entirely, we can support that. If you're a library that wants to keep things very basic, perhaps you don't have a lot of in-house web developers or technical resources, or maybe you do and you just want to deploy them in different ways, you can use out-of-the-box solutions. But underlying all of this is a private Libris academic cloud that hosts all of our services and provides deep integration within this framework. So looking at the current state of the library today, we can see here a number of challenges that we've outlined. One of those is exposing the valuable library resources. So as we look at these, many of these are very pressing, some of them may not be relevant to your library specifically, but I thought I'd take a moment to kind of outline some of these and why we feel they're important in affecting libraries today. So we're looking at things like, how do you make sure your resources, your collections, and your services that you're providing to students and staff more visible? How do you make sure they're fully utilized? Sort of optimizing usage of your collections, whether they're subscribed databases from providers or local digital resources, archives, institutional repository content that's often overlooked. We can incorporate these types of resources into the discovery environment to ensure that we have higher visibility, that your users are able to get to those resources more effectively. So what about making localization decisions, understanding the unique needs of your users and your environment, and customizing solutions to engage with those users more effectively? So you know your users better than anyone, so we want to make sure that we have a flexible discovery environment that you can adapt to your local needs. Discovering content, of course, is challenging enough in and of itself, but then providing access to that content is another area. We want to make sure that we're not overlooking the need to have a seamless experience. So we find the content within discovery, but then we have to do the handoff to that content successfully. And traditionally that hasn't always happened well. So we want to make sure that within our unified environment that we have very accurate, authoritative knowledge bases, linking technology that's doing that handoff seamlessly for users, because it's intimately involved in your customer satisfaction and how happy your students will be when they click on that link and try to get to the content. And then designing our systems so that they talk with one another. I alluded to that really in the previous slide when we were talking about integrations, the value of having this unified platform, really having services that can integrate in a more intimate fashion is critical to providing excellent customer service. Not having separate data silos, disparate and duplicative workflows. So integration of services means that we're meeting user demands more effectively. So if we think of in the past, when I worked at Sewer Solutions, we were selling sort of point solutions. We would have a dedicated ERM, and that ERM would be used to manage electronic resources. We'd have a standalone search service and a link resolver, and so you would end up with not only those, but also the traditional ILS. Where we're managing oftentimes overlapping data in separate systems. So you'd have workflows that could potentially be brought together, but because they're in separate systems, they often require a separate individual who needs to learn that interface and then kind of recreating the wheel in each one of these systems. So we have a shared set of strategic principles that we see outlined here that we use to kind of inform the development process of our discovery services. But we do continue to support both Summon and Primo, and there's a reason for that. We know that within our user communities, you have unique needs, and we have existing communities that are very loyal and have adapted their discovery services to meet the needs of their individual institutions. And so we want to make sure that we're investing heavily in both of these solutions because they're different. Primo and Summon both have unique strengths. We have been able to take advantage of the strengths of each service and sort of cross-pollinate between the two. So you find some very interesting features showing up in the different services that existed in, let's say, Primo. We'll be adding things like citation trails, for example, within Summon, that is an existing feature within Primo currently. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to enhance the experience in terms of incorporating these different features within each of these services to the value of both of the services. And so if we look at some of these principles more closely, we're looking at the ability within the two services to share content and metadata. So how do we take advantage of the indices in both services and add content across those services? So you have more of a shared coverage approach. Content operations. So we have a team of 60 individuals in-house that manage all of the different content-related operations within our services. And it goes beyond just Summon and Primo. I think it's a testament to the level of commitment that we have to make sure that we're providing a lot of resources to support the accuracy of the content that your users are finding within the services. I talked about the cross-product capabilities, but also product and user experience expertise across the teams. So we have shared development resources now, providing that centralized infrastructure for the services. So that's the unified cloud environment. So someone has now been brought into the Libris cloud. And then the community collaboration, I think, is a really exciting opportunity for us, especially coming from the service solution side, where we didn't have as active a community in terms of the user groups and the formal processes that we had to inform our development roadmap. So there's a lot of opportunities now to engage with the users, whether it's Illuna or some of the other more regional user groups, as well as sort of the annual voting process that helps us drive the direction of the product. So thinking about the diversity of needs represented by our community, you can see here that right now we're serving over 3,400 institutions with our discovery services, so that's combined across Primo and Summit. And as you'd imagine, they have a variety of different needs. And so these cross areas like basic customization, branding, sourcing of code, sharing code across institutions, integration with third-party systems. So there's really, I think, within the two services, something to meet the needs of all libraries. Within Primo, you have a high degree of customization available. Within Summon, you have a rich set of out-of-the-box features, but they're starting to cross over in terms of the types of features that we're able to offer across these two services. But we can see some of the different areas where we're meeting the needs of our customers here, so applying branding and design decisions, choosing add-ons from the development community. So how do we share the work that our customers are doing to apply their creative solutions in other customer sites as well? Integrating with third-party services, accessing the most relevant content from any provider. I think this sort of points to our commitment to having more of a provider-agnostic approach. And so that independent content operations team is very committed to reflecting our content or vendor neutrality within the index and the technology of the system, so that as we bring new content in, you're able to promote that content in accordance with your priorities in terms of delivering access to that content from your licensed vendors. Okay, so here's a picture of what I would consider to be sort of a discovery ecosystem. And there are a variety of services that touch this. You see here, there's several shared touch points. So we've got research outpoints and data, digital repositories that can be included within the discovery environment. Researcher profiles that can be brought in and integrated with discovery. Discovery enrichment. So this is an area where we're able to bring in external data sources, whether it's Libris data or Syndetics Unbound, and enrich the user experience, bringing elements that will provide a richer set of metadata variables to inform the relevance ranking of your content. Really optimize the content records within the discovery service for discovery. Video content. So we have an ongoing commitment to represent a diversity of content from many different providers with whom you're working, as well as open access content. And then, of course, integrating with third-party catalogs is a continuing commitment. So that's something that we'll continue to support, even though we do provide sort of native integration with our Alma Library Services platform. We know that not all libraries will adopt that, so we want to make sure that we're supporting your unique environment. So, on one end of the spectrum, we're looking to make it easier for libraries to make simple customization decisions and preview them immediately within the discovery administrative environment. We then introduced a feature we call Primo Studio, which you see as a screenshot here, where you're able to make basic branding customizations, add in things like custom logos, change colors, update the library logo in real time within the system, as well as take advantage of sort of a shared code and widgets hub directly integrated within Primo Studio, selecting widgets that other libraries have created, and then uploading that directly into your own environment. We're also looking for ways to promote local library services and your resources, whether they're licensed databases, open source resources. You know, we don't view discovery as a replacement necessarily for the database interface. Many databases, for example, A&I databases, as you all know, have very robust search functionality that we cannot nor should we attempt to recreate that within the discovery environment. So we want to find ways to make the discovery interface a springboard to get your users to the most appropriate resources based on their needs. So in this case, we see a very simple search. This isn't that uncommon within discovery. As we look at anonymized search logs, we'll find your typical search is anywhere from 1 to 3 keywords. So here somebody has a search for biology. We can assume that they're relatively new to the topic if they're just searching for biology. We do provide ways for the user to extend their search and learn about more complex search strings that might yield better results. But in this case, the library has created these resource recommendations for a couple of resources that they want to promote. And so you're able to provide very targeted recommendations for library services and resources directly within the context of the user's query, which we see here. Jumping over to Summon now, we were just looking at some examples from Primo. This case, we're looking at a number of different ways that we enable libraries to manage the discovery service Summon in a simple and efficient manner. So we have, I think, within Summon, going to be ultimate in a fast, easy administrative environment where you can go in and make relatively simple adaptations to meet the needs of users or adjustments to features, activating or deactivating things, making simple customizations to the interface for that kind of localization. We've also integrated things like customizable advanced search forms. And then on the far right here, you see an example of a configurable topic, Explorer pane. So if we were looking at an example of a feature that's live now within one of our Summon customer sites, here we're at Bowling Green State Universities, and they've incorporated a new feature, relatively new feature that we developed within Summon called our custom side panels. So again, thinking of ways that we can promote local services, here you can very easily go into the Summon administrative environment and create this custom side panel, either just entering free text, it supports HTML or JavaScript, and in this case, they're promoting their individual research appointments that the library staff provide. So one of the really exciting things I think about these types of features is that it gives you new ways to increase the level of engagement with your users. So think of the types of services that you provide or that you want to promote to students, staff, faculty. These things can now be incorporated within the discovery environment, and they can either be a default panel that always displays, and maybe you have an event or some sort of service you want to promote, or something that's tied to a trigger word. So whenever someone types in this particular term or phrase, then they will see this information from the library. So the pace of development work within the discovery world, I think, really reflects the increasing importance of discovery as kind of the digital front door of the library. And as we see more libraries moving to next generation library services platform, or next gen ILS, the discovery service now becomes the kind of the central finding tool. So it replaces the traditional OPAC catalog. And so we have to have services, discovery services, that are very flexible in adapting to the needs of various user types and adapting to different user behaviors. So this might be someone who's just looking for a book, like they would find the catalog. So the discovery service has to find known items, be able to execute on that search type very quickly. You also want to be able to recognize when you've got a partial title or maybe an author last name search. So the discovery service can analyze the metadata records and look for pairings or groupings of metadata fields that might indicate a known item search. And so how do we kind of anticipate the needs of the user and then incorporate that into our weighting or boosting factors within the service, as well as the other sets of features that we see here. Many of these features that you see on the right are along the lines of what we've seen in the previous slides, where we're looking at resource recommendations or side panels that are promoting services. So you have now integration of alt metrics data. They can give a user a sense of what's the energy or velocity or activity around a particular article. How do we promote newspaper collections without them overwhelming the results set when you have sometimes hundreds of thousands of newspaper articles in a typical library collection? That was something that we struggled with early on at Service Solutions. So within Summon, we've developed sort of a bracketed approach where we have specific content spotlighting. So you have image content or newspaper article content. We provide a bracket and a preview for a few of those content type items. Then the user can self-select all of that content if they want to look at that specifically. Incorporating enrichment content, so Syndetics Unbound has a really visually engaging presentation within Summon and Primo, where you can click on a result and then see a full page view with more details about, let's say, this particular book, as well as the Syndetics Unbound information, where you've got author details, a preview, you've got recommendations and other types of content enrichment features that can roll up into that result. BX Recommender is sort of like the Amazon users who looked at this were also interested in this. And so we're now analyzing sort of a correlation of use between articles and saying, well, here's some other articles that you might be interested in. So you can now select that when you're looking at a specific article within our discovery services and open up a whole list of additional potentially relevant articles that might be useful for your users. A citation trail, we're using cross-ref data there to identify articles that are citing the article that we found, as well as articles that are cited within that. So we're trying to find ways to kind of serendipitously introduce other content that could be potentially relevant to your users. So they have this discovery trail where you have things that are really correlated together based on the usage data that we're looking at. And then just kind of to wrap up this list here, another way to increase engagement is to provide contact details for library staff directly within the results. Now, not all libraries are set up to support that level of engagement, but if you want to, you can have someone who's searching for, for example, our search for biology. You might have the librarian who authored the LibGuide on biology promoted within the results set, within our little topic Explore pane on the right-hand side. So you could have a suggested librarian there with contact information, email, or perhaps just a general contact for the reference staff. Okay, so we know that integration with third-party systems is really key to creating a personalized discovery experience at each library. So we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of users, whether they're starting within the learning management system, a web search engine, the library's website, and also reflecting sort of what are the priorities of a library in terms of their preferred, their preferred environment. How do they want to customize the interface so that it really reflects the user experience that they want to promote? So some libraries want to really design their own user interface from scratch, and they can use open source software like Blacklight to do that. So we go over, let me just jump over to the web real quick here, and I'll share with you a few sites that have done that. And in this case, these are a few the Summon libraries, and they're using the Summon XML API to feed XML results into their own interface. So here at UPenn, they have designed what they call the Franklin catalog, and here they're feeding catalog results, and then they also have article results, and those are coming from Summon. In this case, they're really able to provide a seamless experience directly within the library's website, and then pull in the results that they think might be relevant and kind of represent different data elements. So here we see articles, books, and media at North Carolina State University, at Michigan State. They have different bento boxes for articles, books, and media, and databases. So again, the library staff for the web development team is designing this interface themselves, but they're then taking advantage of the discovery service index and the API to feed in relevant results. And so this this search is being passed to our API, sending a call, and then bringing back the results that they then incorporate into their interface. So in this case, you can have complete control over the user interface, the user experience. So one of the fundamental ways that we see libraries addressing many of the challenges we've discussed is by adopting next generation ILS or library services platforms. Do we have any ALMA libraries here? Yes? Almost? Okay. How about other vendors providing?
Well, actually, technically, Xleo is where employed.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe ALMA.
Yeah, so there are a few different services within that category of next generation ILS. But I think one of the goals of this type of service is to, of course, address these challenges that we talked about early on. And I think this new category of ILS really provides some exciting opportunities for libraries in terms of increasing operational efficiency, increasing the speed at which we can address user needs. So here we can see within our ALMA Unified Resource Management environment, you can have either Primo or Summon sitting on that platform. So ALMA essentially provides this unified platform approach to providing library services, and then you can select your preferred discovery system that sits on top of that. And now the advantage we see now is rather than having separate silos where we're managing electronic resources in one system, digital resources in another, and you've got a discovery service, you've got the ILS, you now have all of that within a unified system. We have a lot of overlap now in terms of workflows that can be done. For example, if you look at an acquisitions process, a purchasing workflow, sometimes those can be very similar for electronic and print materials until you get to the final stage, where you have an electronic resource being activated and a print resource being received. So now you're able to achieve, I think, more efficiency within this model and have a single system that allows you to manage print, digital, and electronic resources. So you can now have all of your electronic resource activations done within the ALMA platform. You can store licenses, acquisition data, have your knowledge base there within a single system. So you're not having to jump between different systems. And now you have the ability within the discovery service integration point here of activating resources within ALMA and having those immediately available now to your end users. So ALMA takes care of the publishing process, and the Primo and Summon are directly querying the ALMA catalog. So we see some more details here in terms of the advantages to this unified approach. Of delivering value. So we talked a little bit about the unified back office management. So again, you have a single administrative interface, sort of more task-oriented workflows. Again, you don't have to jump between systems. You're having more of a unified approach to management of workflows across different resource types. Seamless publishing out to your access and discovery services, and then the shared infrastructure. So you're not having to maintain systems across different platforms. I think the ability to share analytics is another key advantage within this environment because you have sort of unprecedented transparency within a single system as far as what's happening within that system, both from an operational standpoint, so looking at kind of library staff productivity, what's happening within the cataloging department, as well as usage of resources across print and electronic. So we want a system where we can load in our counter information, be able to easily derive analytics reports or look at our search stats. You can develop now dashboards, where you can have multiple data points available within a single environment. And then with the discovery piece, you have quick access within ALMA to the discovery analytics platform. This is all within this environment built on the Oracle Business Intelligence platform. So advanced patron services, we look at the meaning of this, it's really about providing integrated and consistent services. So the primary access point, I would argue, within this environment is the discovery service. So that's where most libraries now that are utilizing discovery will be channeling their users directly to that. They'll have the discovery search box prominently placed on the library's homepage. That doesn't mean that's the only place where the students are going. They're still actively going to the database directly, maybe an A to Z list, going to the LibGuides. But in the case of libraries that have discovery, they'll start to drive usage into that environment and then provide access to the patron services that way. So from within either Primo or Summon, you can now access your patron account directly. See real-time availability drawn right from the underlying ALMA index. And so here we have the ability to really promote services and information from the ALMA platform directly to users in real time within our discovery services. So if I'm looking at a specific item and I've logged into Primo or Summon now, I can see services that my library provides that are targeted to my patron group. So maybe your library provides digitization of articles to faculty only. So you can have that service show up only when it's a faculty member that is logged in. And then finally, integrated data management. So here, we're just saying that we're trying to represent all types of resources now within this environment. As libraries continue to evolve, we need to have a services format agnostic, as well as supporting different types of cataloging standards, different types of resources. So we continue to expand the types of formats and standards that you're working with, whether it's RDA or a rib frame or 90 plus different content types that we find within our discovery indices. And then also finding it, just looking at this point down below, different creative ways to apply data enrichment from other sources, other databases that we maintain within the ProQuest family of services. So I mentioned Ulrich's Web as an example of that, applying synthetics content enrichment to make sure that we're helping your users find the resources that you license or have selected for their discovery in the most effective manner. Okay, looking in a little more detail at some of these items that we're discussing here. So again, unified back office management. How can we simplify and expedite library workflows? So the unified back office management allows you to reduce duplicated admin processes, gives you that seamless publishing process. So again, kind of stepping back, in the past, if you have a third-party ILS and then another discovery system from another vendor, you would have to publish your catalog records to the discovery service, within be ingested, go through a kind of a content operations process, and then be indexed and discoverable. So that can take several days. Now with the integration of discovery and the library services platform, you reduce that cycle, and in some cases, it's near real time, as in the case of the Primo and ALMA integration. Where you have the index exist within the services, changes are made on the ALMA side, and those can be reflected in a matter of minutes. Making the most of the integration with ALMA, so we've talked of several points where we see the advantage of that, and an easy configuration and setup. So, of course, having a single environment where we can do all of the activation is key. So if we were to jump out here, we can take a look at just a quick preview of the ALMA environment, where we see up above now a menu where we can drop down and see different discovery administrative options. So here we can develop new search profiles. So maybe we want to have the ability to create subsets of our collections and have a scope where we can just search across a specific subset of the overall collections, for example, articles only or catalog materials. Maybe we want our users just to be able to search course reserves or a repository of information. So we can easily set those up here. Configuring separate views. Maybe we want to have, as in the case of Colorado School of Mines, Laura Guy, there's a systems librarian, and she set up a dedicated search page just for searching the library or the dissertations and theses from grad students. So you can configure Primo to just have as many dedicated views as you like, and you set those up right within the ALMA environment. Managing local fields. So when you're looking at an underlying record for a resource that you found within Summon or Primo, you can add custom metadata fields into that environment. So maybe you want to have a donor note, or you see some sort of error within the record, you need to jump into ALMA and make a change. That can be reflected in real time. You can very easily add new fields to adapt to what you want to display to your users. managing tags, of course, all of the kind of customization and branding options. These can now be managed within the Alma library services environment. So how about delivering automated patron services? I kind of alluded to this earlier, but to dig into this a little bit more, what are the types of services that we want to promote to our users? And are there things that are limited to patron groups? So here, once I found something within Discovery, I mentioned earlier how important it is to be able to provide seamless access to that, but also to promote the appropriate library services. So whether it's a physical item request or digitization request, maybe resource sharing if you're part of a sharing network, you can all have those services promoted directly within the Discovery environment and have them contextually display, or conditionally display rather, based on the profile of the user. So here, we can define where we want to pick something up, ask library staff to scan it, select options for quickly accessing, say, an electronic resource or a physical item, and viewing e-resources directly. We're providing within the unified environment here as well an integrated link resolver. So you no longer have to separately manage a link resolver technology that's handled within the framework of Alma, and it just happens seamlessly within the system for your electronic resources that use open URL linking technology to link from a source database to a target, or source being Discovery, to where that content lives. Providing services like document delivery, loan requesting, of course, digitization, ILL optimization. So if you're using a broker system like Iliad, being able to integrate that directly within the Discovery environment, or taking advantage of the peer-to-peer resource sharing opportunities with other Alma libraries. Providing copyright management, so you have the ability now within our Discovery services, when integrated with Alma, to display license details. So you can have a drop-down list and open up all of the terms of use that you're managing within Alma for that particular database or for that provider. Okay. Looking at integrated resource and data management. So this is sort of under the hood, if you will, when we're using a Discovery service, all of the work that goes into managing the content aspect of that is not necessarily as evident until something goes wrong. So I mentioned that we have a team of 60 plus individuals that manage this process. We have a vendor relations team. They're the ones who work directly with the content provider partners with whom we work. And we sign agreements to harvest that content on a periodic basis that defines what we get from the content providers, whether it's full text and metadata or just metadata. That defines the frequency, the way in which we process that and index that data. And so the team exists really to ensure that we're accurately representing local catalog resources within the Discovery environment, as well as representing really the full breadth of the library's electronic resource collections and digital collections, and those are managed well. So we have dedicated metadata librarians that can work with you to define exactly how you want your content represented within Discovery. So think of your catalog records, for example. How do you want the metadata fields, the MARC fields, to map to the metadata fields within the schema of the Discovery service? That metadata team works directly with our customers to ensure those local customizations are supported. We've talked about the data enrichment processes that we have in place. The shared analytics platform, again, provides some unique opportunities here for analyzing operations and usage data. Here we're looking at several of the different areas where we can derive analytics reports. So thinking of acquisitions, cataloging, fulfillment, user interface usage, queries or the searches that are being conducted within Discovery, results click-throughs. We want to analyze what are they clicking through, to which platforms are being used, matching end-user activity to the acquisitions policies, so making sure that our terms of use, our prevailing kind of usage agreements are being applied appropriately. And then using this data that we're able to harvest from the system to make better informed decisions in terms of collection development. So we're looking at evidence-based selection, supporting being able to kind of marry our acquisition data with our counter reports and put together these cost per use analyses. They can inform whether or not we're getting the best ROI or value from a particular collection. And then also identifying collection resource gaps. And so maybe we're seeing growth in a specific subject area. We can track that using analytics and identify whether or not we need to build that collection. You can also go in many cases, libraries are doing sort of print to electronic conversion. So you want to be able to do things like overlap analysis. See where are the print titles, what's the cost per use, what sort of usage are we seeing, and which resources can we eliminate, just have represented in electronic format. So all of these and much more can be handled with the Alma platform and using the Oracle Business Intelligence Analytics platform that's embedded within it. Okay, so looking at simplifying and expediting operations. So this would be sort of, you would think would be the obvious one within a unified system like this, but underlying that is kind of the benefits of having this shared infrastructure. So we have the 24/7 hub that Ex Libris maintains. We're constantly monitoring the private cloud academic environment, providing sandbox environments where you can test out new functionality before it goes live into production. Taking advantage of really a wealth of our RESTful APIs, for being able to reach into the system, make changes, pull data out, integrate with third-party systems. Having a synchronized product lifecycle management. And so I think this is key, especially when you think of within kind of the agile development process that we follow. We are moving fairly quickly, and I think it's essential nowadays that our products are able to adapt very quickly. We kind of began by talking about that. So when we look at the way both collections are changing, user behaviors are changing, library environments and academic environments as a whole are changing, we want to be very responsive to that. So the agile development process allows us to be very nimble. We've introduced a website called the Ideas Exchange. So it's ideas.exlibrisgroup.com for those who haven't gone there. I'd recommend checking it out because you can go in there. It's kind of the Lego Idea Exchange where you can go in and suggest new ideas for products. Any of the products, you just go in and say, I think this would be a great idea. And our product management team is constantly monitoring that. And they're able to sort of take advantage of the low-hanging fruit. So we do, of course, have an annual voting process. But this, again, is a way that we can be more closely aligned with the needs of our user community. Okay, so here we're looking at kind of a picture of the adoption rate of Primo V, which is the sort of the new version of Primo that seamlessly integrates with Alma, and then the Summon and Alma integration. So currently we have 30 plus live institutions using Primo V and 100 plus institutions in implementation. And so you can see the image of the rollout here. And then you've got 13 live institutions using Summon and Alma with 3 additional libraries in implementation. You can see a few examples of those here. Our first live Summon and Alma customer was Eastern Michigan University. Okay, so key takeaways from today. We've talked a little bit about delivering advanced user services, doing that quickly within the discovery environment, and the advantages of having a sort of unified discovery and management ecosystem. We've talked about streamlining cross-system workflows. So how do we introduce efficiencies, sort of business efficiencies within our operations in the library? Leveraging insights. So how do we take advantage of those analytics reports to optimize collection and development? Maximizing usage of library resources, of course, is really at the heart of having a discovery service, but want to be able to measure that. So we need to have a clear view into what's happening with our collections and what's happening within the discovery service environment too. So within that analytics platform, you can see how are our users engaging with the discovery interface. What facets are they selecting? So how can we continue to kind of adapt that interface design to the needs of our users? And then of course, hitting the bottom line, how do we lower the total cost of ownership? So just imagine one of the goals here in terms of introducing a hosted solution and an integrated suite of services is that we lower the overall cost of ownership of the services, lower the administrative overhead, and introducing a number of different efficiencies for our customers. Quick glance at upcoming improvements, and really for a deeper view on these, I'll direct you to our website. We have a site called knowledge.exlibrisgroup.com. It's our knowledge center where we post really all of the product documentation, the roadmaps, the release notes. It's all publicly available, so you don't have to log in. So if you'd like to get a sense of kind of the direction of our discovery services or really any of our products, I would recommend that you go there and check that out. There's really extensive documentation, a lot of great training materials as well for folks who really want to get deeper into the services. So here's a quick view of some of the priorities on the Primo roadmap. So we're looking at areas like extending the user interface. I talked about Primo Studio, big data analytics, further integration with our product offerings. So looking at how we're integrating discovery with our research service, for example, Explore. More details on this. Again, I'd be happy to share this with anyone if you'd like to come up afterwards. But we're focusing on kind of the discovery cornerstones and functions, continuing to fine-tune search and ranking, providing more exploration paths and tools to help in the research process. And here are a few highlights from the Summon roadmap. So introducing saving searching, so having kind of the ability to save your searches within Google. Linked data, adding that in to promote library collections on the web. Improving catalog updating, so increasing the throughput of the speed at which we promote the updates for library collections. And citation trails as well. We talked a bit about that. And again, more details on this. I won't go into all of these in great deal, but at this point, I'd like to open up for any questions. Also, thank you for attending. Yes, please.
When you were talking before about the suggested librarians and the library guides being folded, is that like through an API or how would it be done?
So the LibGuides are integrated directly from SpringShare. Okay. So we have a partnership with SpringShare that allows us to just harvest those directly. So there's nothing required as a part of the library. You just give us your ID, and we can harvest those on a regular basis. And then once we have those in, we can then promote that suggested librarian feature.
And how do you map that suggested librarian? Is it a keyword? Is it by call number kind of range?
It's more of a keyword approach.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was just curious about how the BX recommender works. Is that based on the data warehouse that you have across all of your installations? Or is it just from the individual libraries?
It's based on a set of data that we store, that we have brought in from our link resolver service. So essentially, BX originally was drawing data from the SFX link resolver. So that's where we get kind of the correlation of use concept. So users that clicked on this article also clicked on these. So we found potential relevance there. Is that?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
You showed the custom pages that people built with APIs and method boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just Summon, or is that something that people do and can do with Primo?
The examples that I showed were for Summon customers, but we have APIs available for both discovery services. And since you asked that question, we have a great resource in our developer network. It's developers.exlibrisgroup.com. That's where we post a lot of the kind of deeper technical information. There's a codes and app sharing site there. There's a forum and also an API dashboard. So if you want to go in and kind of play around with some of the APIs, you can create an account and log in to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for attending.